I'm with you. I hear him.
My turn. Got started promptly.
1 second.
Let's call the meeting to order for June 16th. And before we begin, I'd like to say congratulations on the arrival of Little Rivers White, who is the new daughter of Kate and Scott. And we also have Judy Daniels, who will be filling in for Kate while she's on maternity leave, and we welcome you.
That's right. Thank you.
So we have called the meeting to order, and we have the agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The agenda stands. We also have minutes from 2 different meetings. If you've had an opportunity to read through them, if there are any questions, we'll take them one at a time instead of consolidating both sets in case there are questions. So for the meeting of May 19th, does anyone have anything they'd like to add, correct for the minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second with Luke. Everybody in favor of the minutes of May 19th, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The minutes stand. Then we have the special minutes for the meeting, special meeting minutes that was held on May 29th. Do we have any questions, additions, corrections? If not, do I have a motion for these minutes? So moved. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then those minutes stand. And now, Ben, are you going to take care of the administrative approvals?
Hey, we just had 3 administrative approvals. They've already been approved. So I don't think that there's anything in particular to report.
Okay.
They're all signage related, so.
All right, then we can move on to case number 831A, requested by George Haymans to install a new hanging sign at 906 Van Buren Avenue. And would you like to tell us about it?
You bet. So the applicant actually installed signage, and it's in the lantern, the pole lantern that exists on the site. Robert's actually putting it up. So the applicant installed signage there. The signs, there are 4 total, are for the 2 businesses that are going to be located inside this newly restored building. The type of sign is somewhat outside of the typical considerations of the commission for signage. And it is a unique sign that is not considered by the guidelines. And the Land Development Code does allow for consideration of different types of signs in the historic urban center. In particular, marquee or other signage replicating historic signage in the historic urban center may be exempted from size, lighting, or other standards if authorized by the Historic Preservation Commission, which is why this is coming before y'all for consideration. We did receive photos from the applicant that indicate that signage was originally located on this lantern in the past. The signage is simple in style, lettering, and color. As the signage was installed without approval, it has been up for several weeks at this point. We have not received any complaints or feedback from the public related to the installation of the sign. We do recommend approval of the requested COA. George is here if you have any questions.
Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Haymans?
Will it be lit?
It is.
So at night you can see it as well?
It's
Would you like to come to the front and introduce yourself for the record?
on the record here.
Good afternoon. This This sign was unknown to me. Oh, this is George Hammonds. The sign was actually unknown to us when we contracted with the church to purchase the building, and I found out about it from the planning department office when Ben had mentioned it. Interestingly enough, I work next door and have lived next door at 299 9th Street, and I guess I'd forgotten that it was there. It'd been covered in ivy. You can see where we pulled some of it back, but need to. It was Walker, which was Gwen Walker, and so I didn't apply for a permit. When I found out that the sign was there, I was kind of elated. I was like, "That's great!" And so we just took the old signs out, which said Walker Realty and Land Company, had a red bird on it on all four sides, and just replaced those. I had the panels for several weeks. But we were basically replacing one panel with a sign and putting our sign back in the same spot. So in my mind, it was like recycling the sign. And then Kate and Ben came over and said, "Hey, you got a permit, or have you gone through the process?" And I said, "Didn't realize needed to. We're just swapping the same sign out with different phone number and name on it." So that's why we're here. I've submitted, luckily, I had some pictures of the sign, because on Google Maps, it's hard to tell that there was a sign there. It just looks like a white panel, like a lantern. But I've got some things to put into the record if you need it. But basically, we took the Walker Land and Realty sign out and put our sign in its place.
Yeah, they were turned around, right, George, so you could actually see the signage?
At some point, they were. But according to Cherie, who occupied that space next door, that's what I was trying to get her to send in. She sent it to the wrong email address. But Cherie Matthews occupied that building next door, and she says, "Dear Oxford Preservation Commission, Mr. Hammonds reached out to me to help with a, quote, local residents' recollection, end quote, of the signage at the corner of University and 9th Street. I've spoken to several of my colleagues from the 90s forward to confirm my recollection and theirs. I've lived in Oxford, and I've worked at my husband's office located at 299 9th Street, which is now my office, adjoining 906 Van Buren, for over 10 years before I moved down the street to my current location. I vividly remember when Gwen Walker occupied the space and put her signage on a backlit street lamp style signpost over 25 years ago. While the sign has not been lit in several years under the occupation of the current tenant/owner, I've driven past it thousands of times since my office being located on Jackson Avenue. The sign stated Walker Realty and Land Company, had a red bird on each of the four panels. The sign has significantly faded recently after Gwen moved down the street to her office on Van Buren, which was her most recent office before she retired. It is hard to tell from the Google Map photos, but the sign was present until recently when it was redone. Ms. Cherie had brought some signage. I'd reached out to some realtors, Oxford Eagle, Bruce Newman, to get some pictures of the signs. Nobody could find any. So I think historic signs like this are important to the culture and throwbacks to, quote, old Oxford, and we need to encourage recycling of these types of signs that are slowly disappearing, especially around the square. Sincerely, Cherie Matthews. And then Billy Bird, who is Gwen's son, said, "I don't mind signing an affidavit that when we moved, we turned the sign around backwards, and you can clearly see that it says Walker Realty and Land Company even after it was turned around. I looked for a while last night to see if I could find a picture. I know it was on the home market guide and our ad in the Oxford Eagle. They also did a story on us moving into that home regarding my mom, Gwen. Even after we moved down the street, we continued to use that sign and the picture on the home market guide. Give me the name and number of the person at City Hall that you need to speak with. I can maybe just call them over the phone." So what he was saying is that they left their sign up for a period of time because it was a landmark, and they have a picture of it with their kids somewhere, but he wasn't able to find it.
Any idea on approximately how old it is?
Well, Cherie remembers it being there in the 90s. But my understanding, I've reached out to John Kofer as we did on the building and some old Oxford folks, Tim Phillips, that have had properties along there. And they said, yeah, that there were signs like that in Oxford and they're not aware of many left, and that it should be a non-issue to preserve a sign like that. So I didn't, I've got tenants. I have a building next door, and I have tenants that come and go out of that building. And they take their placard out and put in a new placard when they move, including people that have been on this board and the Oxford Planning Commission that have occupied there. And I just did not think that swapping those signs out was going to be that big of a deal, but that's why we're here. So.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you doing the background work on that because, as you know, it's awkward for us to approve something that's already been put up, but with your explanation and the innocence of it, I think it's a win-win.
Yep, thank you.
Does
This
anybody,
is unusual. It's not something that comes up often. It's also not common for this commission to see business signage from time to time. There are one or two properties that you'll see. But even with the new land development code, we wrote this in, and since that time, we've had two instances where this has come up with the Courthouse Square. Sonic, and when they redid the Sonic down here, they preserved the old sign. And then also with the Lyric, when they wanted to bring back the marquee to its current state. So this will be the third time that I can recall that we've utilized this provision. So, like I said, staff recommends approval of this request.
does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask of Mr. Haynes?
Maybe I misunderstood your answer. Is it lit? In the evening, will it be lit?
It is. Okay. We turned it off when I realized that it was not approved, to not call any more attention to it. But there's contractors in there doing demo work, and so they've been hitting switches trying to find the lights. So sometimes it's off, sometimes it's on. But I told the property manager to just not.
It will be lit.
It is lit. It has light bulbs in it, and once this is approved, I assume it'll be approved, then we'll turn it back on and clean it up.
That corner could use some more light. That's why I asked the question.
It's pretty neat. Like Ben, I was like, oh yeah, that is a sign. But when we took the panels down and saw it, I was like, this is pretty cool. And then Tim told me that there used to be several of those around the square, but they've all since been run over or knocked down or removed. So somebody that was born and raised here might remember where the other ones were. But
Are there any more questions?
thank you.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the signage?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? You have your signage.
Flip the switch back.
I'm 2 for 2 on unanimous decisions, and I'm just going to get my journal out. Thank you all for your help. We appreciate it. NPS approval on the building should be done in the next 10 days, so we can start the foundation work. Hopefully we'll make it another 160 years.
That would be good. Our next meeting is July, somebody help me here, 21st. So mark it on your calendars, and do we have any more business to discuss? Anyone want to add anything? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
You want to stay here? Okay.
Before it starts raining again.
Yeah.
Jimmy missed it.